Hi everyone, welcome back to more art classes with me. I'm Dee and we're going to be doing an art class today, and we are going to be doing quirky 3D cardboard creatures. Thank you first off for all of you who tuned in last week and watched my Facebook Live art class, and thank you also for those of you who have gone to my YouTube channel to watch my art classes there at a time that suits you. And thank you also to my new subscribers as well. And I must make a special mention to one particular young artist last week who showed me their work. Lexi, your cardboard village was absolutely beautiful. So thank you very much for sharing that with me. So today's art class, our quirky 3D cardboard creatures, we're going to be using some ideas or going to be inspired by an artist called Joan Miro. He is a Spanish artist who lived in the late 19th century, 20th century, and he did lots of beautiful paintings, and he also worked in ceramics and did printmaking and created sculptures as well. And the sort of images that he did, they were more abstracted, and he used line and he used shapes, mostly organic shapes, so lots of wavy, curvy shapes. And he used just a few colours. He didn't use a lot of colour, like a lot of variation in colour, but he stuck to just a few main colours, especially later on in his art career. So today what we're going to be needing to do our artworks is we're going to be needing cardboard, and this cardboard is just from a cardboard box that I had, would you guess, some art supplies delivered to me in. But you might have any sorts of cardboard lying around. There might be some in the shed, there might be some even in your pantry. So see what you can find. Also going to be needing a cardboard tube as well. So that could be from paper towel or it could be toilet paper. You could use the inside from either cling wrap or foil, but I find those tubes are quite thick, so they might be a little bit harder for you to cut. Just see how you go. You're going to be needing scissors and glue stick and masking tape and a black permanent marker. I'm going to be using acrylic paint. However, if you don't have paint, then you can use markers. Markers work just fine on cardboard. I'm also going to be needing some bamboo skewers like these. I've got some short ones and I've got a long one as well. And of course a pencil, an eraser and a paintbrush. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're actually going to do some shapes. I've drawn an organic shape here, which you might be able to see. Kind of looks a little bit like a jelly bean or a peanut. So that's my first shape. And I'm also going to do a base in which all of my sculpture can sit on, and I'm going to make it a square base. You could probably use a ruler to make it a square shape. I'm just going to draw it freehand, okay? You'll see what shape that is when I cut it out. And I'm also going to use a smaller piece of cardboard to cut out, it's like a moon shape, I think. We might do a moon. So, moon shape. There we go. So it looks like a moon shape or a boat. I might get another scrap and I might do a circle. Again, you might want to trace around something. I probably should have traced around something then, but that's okay. And the rest of this I might trace around the base of this paper cup. You could also use something like a paper cup if that's what you have in your cupboard. Or maybe it's left over from a takeaway coffee or a takeaway hot chocolate. And this one, I'm going to turn this one into an eye. So I'm just going to put some eyelashes on it, which is basically just some triangles. We might do one more over there. There, like that. Now, so I'll draw my shapes. I'm going to cut out these basic shapes, and then I'm going to start adding a little bit of detail to them with my pencil first and then my marker. Okay, so it can be a little bit trickier to cut out this thicker cardboard. Last week we were cutting out thinner cardboard from a cereal box, and that was probably fairly easy because it's quite thin, although I think it was probably a little bit fiddly sometimes when we got into tight corners. This is a little bit thicker, so not as easy, but manageable if you've got the right cardboard. Okay, so there we go. Got my moon shape. Doesn't matter if there's printing on the back. My moon shape. I'll cut out my square for my base. This just gives it something sturdy on which to stand on, so it's more likely to stay upright when we pop it on a table, on a shelf. So I might just trim that bit because it's a little bit bendy, it may not sit quite flat. Okay, there's my square. I'm going to cut out my eye. I find it easier if you've got triangle shapes in which to cut into. I'll show you in just a sec. To cut out close to the outer edge of the lines that you're going to cut. So I'll show you. Okay, so you can see how I've cut around, just touching the tips of my triangles. And that then makes it easier to cut into these triangles in between. So I'll just put my scissors there and cut in, scissors here, cut in. Okay, makes it much easier than having all of that bulky cardboard sitting around, getting in the way of your hand. So you're just cutting in. I find it also easier if you put the tips of your scissors over the top of where you want your cut line to end. Okay, that way you don't accidentally go, oops, cutting into the middle of your shape. Okay, there's that one. And this one there and there. So there's my strange looking eye. Now I have this circle I wanted to cut out. Getting rid of the bulk of it again. It makes it easier to maneuver your scissors. See how I'm moving the cardboard around in my other hand? There we go, my circle. And now I'm going to cut out my jelly bean shape. Now again, I might have to cut roughly around the edge because this is a lot of cardboard to hold on to, and then I'll neaten up in a sec. So cut around roughly. Okay, there we go. We'll move that one out of the way. Now I can cut the detail, and it's much easier. Get rid of that bit. It's a good idea just to get rid of some of the waste as you go. Cutting carefully around, just like last week, slowly, carefully, and watching the line that you want to cut along the whole time. That way your scissors should go where you want them to. So carefully, slowly, there we go. move all of that out of the way that we don't want to use. Now, one last thing that we need to do, and that is our cardboard tube. So here is our cardboard tube. Now it's a little bit longer than what I would like it, so I'm actually going to cut it down to size. So I'm going to cut down from this end. Actually, I might draw a line first. Okay. I'm going to see if my pencil line can match up when I go all the way around. We'll see how I go. Oh, I made it. Okay, so let's go down. I might go at an angle. Okay, so cutting it around. This is easier this way. Oh, it might be too. Much easier this way. Cutting on the line slowly. Watching the line as I'm cutting. Okay, there we go. Now, this is going to be the base. Well, it's going to be what my creature is attached to. This will be my base. That will sit there. And I think I might have this in there. And I might have these all poking out the top. Now, it's not very stable like that. So what we're going to need to do is we're going to look at how to actually get this to stay attached to the base. This will be before we start colouring. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a technique called a flange attachment. So to do that, we need to, I'm just going to draw a line that's going to be the line that I cut to, that I don't go beyond. So again, I have to see if my line matches up. Yep, can you see it all the way around? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut up to that line. And I'm going to hover the tip of my scissors over where I want to cut to. So one cut, and 2, 3, want to have a few there, 4, 5, 6. You don't want them too far apart because then the technique won't work as well. 1 and 1 more. Okay, so now what we do, when we've got these cuts there, we're actually going to put our finger right where we want the fold line to be. And there, we're going to fold them out. Okay? You see how they're all folding out? And this one, and this one. Oops, that one didn't fold as easily. Might be an extra layer of cardboard in that part of the tube, I think. This one, and last one there. So now we will be able to attach our tube to our base. We'll be able to use glue and masking tape to get that to sit flat onto the bottom. So that cardboard attachment technique is called a flange. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to check that all of these are going to go together before we start drawing our lines and our patterns and do our painting. We just want to see how it's going to look all together and make sure it's all going to fit together. Okay, so to get this part attached to our tube, it's not going to be very easy to have it sitting like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut 2 slots. So we're going to cut one there, and then on the opposite side, so directly across from it, we're going to cut another slot. Okay, you see that? One slot on this side, one slot on this side. Now, because this cardboard is thick, we're going to do another slot right next to the first one. Okay, can you see that one? And then we're going to snip this bit off. And what that does is it gives us a wider slot to fit the cardboard. Okay, and another one. And cut that off. So there's 1 and 2 wide slots. So if I pop that on there, hopefully I can get this bit of cardboard into those slots. Now you don't want it too loose in the slots, you're better off having it a little bit tight. Slide it down. There we go. So it's going to stay in there nice and firm. See, it won't fall out. So there is that one. Now, to have these sitting in the top, I was thinking of using some of these short skewers. Because they are pointy at one end, you need to be careful of your fingers. Then where the cardboard has its layers in between the 2 outer layers, carefully you can pop your skewer in there. Can you see how it's in there? Yeah. And then we will be able to slide these down because they've got gaps there. So we can pop that one there. And we can, actually I might pop that one out the back there. That one there, oops. Needs some more weight at the front. See how it's tipping over that way? Let's see, we might pop that one over here. This is going to be a weird looking creature. Now, that blunt end isn't going to poke through in between these cardboard layers. So now that I have poked this pointy end in there, I'm going to take it out and then I'm going to pop it back in the other way. So I've already made that hole, or that gap there. And then I'm going to pop this one here. You may want help doing this bit. Now, if you have wooden chopsticks or sticks, then you can still use them, but what you might want to do is just have the stick going behind and just adding a bit of adhesive tape to it to hold it in place, okay? So similar concept. Okay, that one, and let's have a look. That one there. There we go. So that's going to be how my creature is going to end up looking. Okay. Now all it needs is some paint. So we've worked out how it's going to go together. I'm going to take everything apart. That's the good thing about it, is that because it's all slotted together, then we can take it apart. So I'm just going to draw some shapes and lines with my pencil, and then we are going to go over our lines with permanent marker. And then we get to use some paint. So going over our lines, oops, I'll move that one out of your way. Now I'm using permanent marker rather than normal markers. Normal markers are okay if that's what you're doing your whole project in, but if you are adding paint as well, I would use a permanent marker, because if you use a normal marker, then it will start bleeding into your paint once you add that wet paint next to it. Okay? So drawing around. It's very bumpy drawing on cardboard too. So eyes, and now I'm going to colour in these luscious long lashes. It's a good idea when you're working at a table as well. Actually, I've got this board here to protect the table, but what I might do is I might actually put some newspaper under there, just so that I don't get too much texture, too much marker and too much paint on that board. Okay, so a bit of newspaper or a bit of old paper. Okay, there's that one. Now I'm going to do a line here because I'm going to colour that in 2 different colours, and I'm going to trace over my pencil lines. I might do some stars up here too. Kind of look like stars. Okay, there we go. You can see my eye and my moon and my circle. They are all just about ready for paint. And I'm thinking that I might do a line down either side here. And I might have two different colours. Oh, golly. It's a little bit tricky trying to draw a straight line down a cardboard tube. I'm a little bit wonky. Okay, let's see how straight this one can get. No, this one's wonky as well, but that's okay. Now for paint. Now, I forgot my art smock, so I'm going to have to be very, very careful with my painting. So I'm just going to paint some of this, and then I'm going to show you how it can go together. Okay, I won't paint all of it because I won't have time for it to dry. We'll see how we go. Now, I'm going to paint half of this one yellow. Now, if you accidentally go over your black lines, don't worry, because once your paint is dry, then you'll be able to paint over them again, okay? I'm not going to paint the flange bit down the bottom, okay? I'll show you why not shortly. So just paint all of this. And once you finish painting, you will need to let it dry before you start popping it together, okay? Otherwise it gets very messy, not just for your hands, but you could ruin your beautiful painting as well. All right, so make sure you let it dry. Maybe somewhere in the sun or next to a heater, or even outside in the fresh air. Okay, so I'm just using one of our primary colors here. So yellow, okay, there we go. There's my yellow done. Now I might see what else I might paint yellow. I'm going to leave that one. I'm not going to paint that one. I'll leave that one for now, just because I want to be able to put it together while it is mostly dry, okay? I'm going to add a bit of yellow around the edge here, or actually the middle ring. Choose the size of your paintbrush carefully too, guys, especially if you have more than one paintbrush. If you've only got one, then use it as well as you can. But because I'm painting mostly smaller areas, I'm using a smaller paintbrush. Can you see that? Just makes it a bit easier and you have a bit more control over where you put your paint. Okay, now I'm going to paint my yellow my circle yellow. Trying to paint it without getting paint on my fingers. It's a little bit challenging. Okay, that one's done. Now, well, I was going to wash my brush, but I'm actually going to mix up a green. Maybe I might add a bit of yellow. I might just add a little bit of colour to this one. Hopefully it won't get in the way when we put it together. It actually dries fairly quickly on the cardboard. The cardboard tends to suck all of the moisture out of your paint quite quickly. So if you don't put your paint on too thickly, then it will dry fairly fast. Okay, so green. I've got my yellow. I might make my green over this side. Now it's better if you're making green to add your yellow first and then gradually add bits of blue. See how much yellow I've got? And I've only got a little bit of blue here, but you can see how much of a change it makes just with that tiny bit of blue. If I added yellow to that blue, then I would be there for a long time using a lot of yellow paint to make my green. Now, we do try to keep our paint away from the metal part of the paintbrush. This is called the ferrule. I always tell my kids we don't want a ferrule. I don't know that I've done too well here, so I hope none of them are watching. They might pick me up on it. Okay, there's my green. Now, I was going to paint the other half of this one green. It's handy having the tube to paint because you can pop your fingers in the end and hold it so your fingers are out of the way while you are painting. So more green. So Miro, a lot of his artworks are more primary colours, so red, blue and yellow, but then he also brings in maybe a secondary colour as well. So I know he's got one painting called Colourful Fish, and I'm pretty sure from memory he uses red, yellow and green. And you can, if you have a look at that artwork, he's got some great shapes in it. And then another one that I've seen has similar colours but also has blue, and that one is called, what's it called, The Garden. So a lot of blue. It had a blue background, which sort of gave it the feeling that it was the sky. Okay, so just painting. You can see that I'm painting all in one direction as well. You see that? I'm not painting all crisscross everywhere. That's fine if that's an effect that you want. But I'm just trying to get a nice even coating of colour. If you really want to, then what you could do is after you've finished painting, you can let it dry, then you could give it another coat if you wish, okay? Leave that one there. Now, what else should I put on here? Red, yellow, green. Do a bit of green in the middle. And then I'm going to get my red, and that might be the last colour that I use, and I'll show you. So now we're going to wash our paintbrush between colours. Didn't need to between yellow and green, so we're using the yellow. Swoosh it around, and then I always get rid of the excess water onto a cloth or a bit of paper towel, just so it doesn't make our paint too runny. Okay, now for some red. I have red around the outside. I might have grabbed a bit too much paint. Okay, so you can see that I'm painting kind of how I was cutting, very slowly and carefully, and I'm watching where my brush is going. Painting around the circle. I think the space that I'm painting is almost exactly the same width as my paintbrush. Okay, so that one. Now, I might do half of this one in red. And I might do a bit of red in the middle here. Now, I would paint the base, but I'm actually going to wait until we've got it all stuck together. Now I'm just going to choose get a bit of blue to paint the other part of my moon. And then we might start assembling. And I'll also show you the one that I made the other day as well. Okay, just to give you another idea. The ideas that you can do for this are endless. You could make a whole lot of different shapes and just put slots into all of them. So these slots that we made here, you could kind of slot in that one, slot in that one, slot, slot, and then you can just attach all of them. The possibilities are endless. You could just make a whole sculpture out of cardboard with slots cut into it. Okay, we shall leave it at that. It's a good way also, by wiping it on a cloth or something afterwards, just to check if there's any colour on there. It means you haven't washed out the paint properly, so you need to go back in for more swooshing. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to start putting it together. I'll probably end up with paint all over me because I'm not letting it dry. We'll see how we go. Okay, so base, and I'm going to pop this one on there. Now, I did say that we're going to be using glue stick or masking tape. What you could do is pop glue on the bottom of these flanged pieces and then pop it down and just press down and wait for it to dry, which could take a while, may or may not stick. Or you can do what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a combination. So I'm just going to put a bit of glue on there. And I'm going to use a bit of masking tape as well. Masking tape, unlike clear cello tape or clear sticky tape, masking tape you can actually paint over. Okay, so I'm just going to pop that down there. It's not going to stay stuck, but I'm just going to tear off some pieces of masking tape. Just small pieces. And I am going to pop them on to the flanged part of the base, so it will stick down onto the base. Okay, one more around there. Okay, done. So it should be doubly stuck, hopefully. Okay. Now we are going to slide this one in. Let's see how it goes. Now I left the paint off of the background just because I thought that it might get a little bit too messy if I add paint to that bit just yet. Now I'm going to do our tail. Pop them out there. Oh, that's another thing I was going to do. With these skewers, you can actually colour them in with black permanent marker as well. So you can just paint those also if you wish. Okay, I forgot that bit. Okay, there. Where's another one? There. Now remembering that with this one we actually created a hole with the pointy end, and then we took it out, turned it upside down, so then we had a hole to poke through for this end, which I can still find it. There we go. Now where's my other short skewer? There it is. Pop that one there, and we will slide this one down on top. Where are we? There we go. And there it is, nearly done. Okay, so last thing that I was going to do is I was going to grab some black and just, oops, I might get that newspaper back again, paint around the base. And because we've used masking tape, then we can paint over the top of it. If you don't have masking tape, if you only have clear tape, then what you might want to do is paint or colour the base first, then paint or colour these tabs for the flange, and then place it together once the paint is dry, and then put your clear sticky tape over the top. And that way you don't need to paint over the top of the clear sticky tape. You'll be able to see the colour of your paint or your markers through the tape. Okay, so just painting carefully around. This paint goes over this masking tape so well. You can continue around. And actually I was going to demonstrate this part on my other one, because this is what I need to do to my other one that I made. The other one that I made, I only used glue to stick it together and it didn't work so good. I just used glue stick. Probably needs PVA glue or wood glue, I would think. So just painting around. Now what you could do is you can always colour and decorate the back as well. So then you can look at your sculpture from all different directions. Okay, it can be like a sculpture that you see in a gallery, one that you can walk all the way around. That has a different view. You could then paint different patterns on the back or different colours. You could even make it so that it's like a game. You could so that you can put it together, take it apart, and see how many different sculptures you can make out of the same pieces. Nearly done. Okay, there we go. So there is this one completed. Well, other than the background here that I wanted to paint, and this is my other one that I created the other day. Okay, so there are two sculptures using colours and symbols, lines, shapes, similar to Joan Miro, or you can come up with your own ideas as well. I've sort of made them look like creatures by adding eyes and bodies. So have fun, guys. And if you make one, please share with me because I'd love to see them. I'd love to see all these crazy looking quirky creatures. The possibilities are endless. So have fun, guys, and I'll see you next week. Bye.